Egypt, and they were asked to go to the promised land. They were in the desert for 40 years, 40 years exactly, and then finally reached the promised land. But as they started to develop and continue to be in this promised land, there were political structures and maybe on a little bit of internal divisions. And at a certain point, the whole of Israel was being divided into two, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, right? And at about 700 years before Christ, that was a time when the northern kingdom was invaded by the Assyrians. So it's a group of people. So there was the Assyrian invasion, and because of that, all the people there, they were being chased out of the country. So that is this very important word that we often hear in the Old Testament, the exile. So the exile actually talks about, it describes the people being chased out of the promised land. And you can imagine this word, the Israelites believe that these lands are specially given to them by God, and now are being chased out. So they are very displaced. And about 150 years later, the southern kingdom was being invaded by the Babylonians. Okay, so at that point of time, the people were also being chased out, so we call that the Babylonian exile. And during this period, when the Israelites are being chased out of all different places, you can see they are one of their darkest moments because they lost their deep connection to the land, to the place that God has promised them. So they feel very abandoned. And there are, in some of the Old Testament readings, prophets who were accompanying them in that place. And oftentimes, during this time, the readings always talk about loss, about lamentations, about where are you, God, so on and so forth. But today's reading, the book of Ezra, it is something that happened after the exile, about 50 years after the southern exile, the Babylonian exile. There was a king by the name of Cyrus, which we read in the reading today. He was, in a way, a good king, a very powerful king, and he said that now I'm okay, I'm opening up this space for you all to come back. Those who have been exiled, you can come back. And with that, Ezra talks about the whole idea of restoration, the concept, the spiritual understanding of not only we have come out of darkness into light, and we have to understand that God is bringing His people back to light. And this is the way we continue to read it, we realize it's very much a part of what is being said, that God never abandoned us in very dark moments. He will ultimately bring us back to life. And same goes then in the God story today, we hear of Jesus telling us, in a way, a similar understanding that God gives us and makes us the light. And now the fact that you are the light, you cannot be hidden. We are all to go out and to continue to spread this light. Now, we take all this reality and reflect against our own reality. Basically, the story of the Old Testament and what Jesus was talking reflects very much the story of life, of us going through difficult moments and coming out of it. But behind that is an invitation for us to realize that God helps us through our most dark moments, through our despair and through our hopelessness, and ultimately He will bring us back to life. And with that, hopefully, we have had experiences like that. We have dared to be the witness to this life and to hope. Now this year, the Jubilee year, we are Pope Francis, before we pass on, we made this year the title of the Jubilee year, Pilgrims of Hope. So it's actually also reminding us to reflect that we are all on a pilgrimage. In a pilgrimage, the journey of life, there will be ups and downs. All you promise is not an assurance that there will not be any challenges in our life. That when you And therefore, we as followers of Christ, we must always hold on to hope. The fact that no matter how bleak, how dark our life seems to be, God will always ultimately lead us out of it. We need to be the witness of that reality. So that today we can also use a bit of time, quiet time, to reflect and ask, where are we in this whole reality? Do we feel that we are in the darkness and we can't seem to be able to see the hope, to see the light? Today's reading is an invitation for us to perhaps have a little bit stronger in the faith, to hold on, cling on a little bit harder in the hands of God, and to not lose hope, to realize that Jesus is always there waiting for us. But if we have already had that experience, that in our darkest moment Jesus is with us, today we are also challenged to go out and to share this reality to the world, especially to those who are not able to see the light that we are in the darkness. Okay? So maybe today we also can use this time to try to think of who might be in need of a little bit more light and hope. We pray for those who are Muslims,